Okay, so let's add some multiplayer abilities into our game. And basically all we're going to do is add controls so that our second paddle can be moved up and down just as the first paddle is being moved. So we're going to go into our paddle controller script. And basically what we're going to do, so at the moment we have it checking for if the input is W or S, and it'll move the paddle appropriately. What we're going to do is add a check to see if this is player 1 or if it is not player 1. And the way we can check that is by adding a value up here, which will be a public bool that we'll call is player 1. Nice and simple. So what a bool is basically a value that can be either true or false. A bool is technically either 0 or 1, but is commonly used as either true or false. So what we'll say is if our bool is player 1 is true, then that means we'll use this bit of code, and if it's not true, we'll do a different bit of code. So how do we apply that here? Well, basically what we'll do is just above we're checking for where our input is, we're going to add a new if statement and say if is player 1. And when we check if is player 1, because it's just a bool and it can be either true or false, what we're saying is if is player 1 is true, then what we're going to do is run this whole little bit of code. And the way we can make sure that we run this whole bit of code is putting a curly bracket before, and then just after we're going to put another curly bracket. But the way coding is indented in C# in general, or just coding in general, is to make it nice and easy to read by making things that are within a bracket moves over to the right. At the moment it's kind of confusing that this bracket here is on the same line as all of these stuff here. So what we'll do is highlight all of this, we're going to right click on it, and we're going to say indent selection. So that moves it over to the side. So then we know that all of this stuff here is within this little bit of code here. So we're within if is player 1. So if we are player 1, then we're going to use W and S to move up and down. But if we aren't player 1, so else, what we're going to do is copy all this bit of code here, and we're going to use two other values to control the up and down motion. So for this example, we're going to use O and L. Now you could equally use any other objects on the keyboard, any other letters, but you could also use the up and down arrows. So let's, for example, keycode.up arrow we could use, or we could use numbers, or we could use enter and shift or anything like that, but we'll just stick with using keycode.o and keycode.l. So this will control if our paddle is not marked as player 1. Okay, so that's our two different types of code setup, or our two different types of control setup. So let's save that, and we'll go back into the game here. And basically all we do now is on our paddle controller, or on our individual paddles, once the script is compiled, what we do is we see now we have this bool here for is player 1. So I'm on player 2 at the moment, so that's obviously not going to be player 1. Let's switch back over to the other paddle. We're going to set this as player 1. And now, if we hit play, and if I can manage to control two different things while talking, we should be able to move them around individually, just like this. And let's see if I can manage to keep a bit of a rally going. But as you can see, now we have two different players playing our game, so you can have a bit of fun with someone else as we're going. It's getting a bit fast, couldn't handle it. Okay, but there you go. That's how we can add some simple bit of multiplayer into our game. But at the moment now, our scores keep going forever. So let's add a system so that when our players reach a certain score, they get a message that tells them they won the game.